Good evening, everyone. Let's call our meeting to order for April 25th, 2016. Confirmation of agenda. Okay. Confirmation of minute for March 21st, 2016. Is the minute carried? Thank you. Declaration of interest? No? Inquiry, we do have an inquiry, so we'll wait till we move it after. Item number 1, the chief's verbal report. We'll hold item number 1. Item number 2, National Capital Area Crime Stopper, the semi-annual update, and we have a presentation from the President. Item number 2. Item number 3, the Canadian Association of Police Governing Annual Conference attendance. Is the item carried? Okay, thank you. Item number 4, the Ontario Associations of Police Service Board Annual Conference funding request. Okay, thank you. Item number 5, igniting the Spirit fundraising event for the Wabano Center for the Aboriginal Health. Is the item carried? Thank you. Item number 6, information management, information technology, IMIT roadmap, and we do have a presentation from our staff on item 6. We know present. Oh, there's okay. I think member Trini asked to hold item 6.
I'm actually okay unless there's other questions. I know we have a busy agenda this evening.
Do you have a question about the? Okay, so we'll hold item no. Okay, we'll hold item 6 then. Item number 7, continuation of Carleton University Special Constable Program. Is the item carried? Okay. Item number 8, the Ottawa Police Service Initiative update, and we do have a speaker on item 8, so we'll hold item 8 for presentation from our staff first. Item number 9, awards to be presented at the Community Police Award Ceremony. Is the item received? Item number 10 is the 2013-2015 Business Plan Final Report. Is the item received? Item number 11, Professional Standards Section 2015 Annual Report. Is the item received for information? Thank you. Item number 12 is a complaint report, Part 5, Police Service Act, first quarter 2016. Received. Thank you. Item number 13, the financial status report, first quarter 2016. Okay, thank you. Item 14, workforce management report, first quarter 2016. Received. Item number 15, legal service status report, first quarter 2016. Is the item received? Item 16, the board monitoring requirement status report, first quarter 2016. Received? Thank you. Item number 17 is a report on SIU investigation, November 16, 2015. There's a revised part in your handout. There was a mixed up with the names, but I think there's a correction on the name. So the item received as amended. Okay. Item 18, report on SIU investigation, 24th February 2016. Thank you. Item 19, outstanding board inquiries and motions, April 26. See. Item 20, letters of commendation. See, and we do have a communication from the provincial in our communication, so we can receive the communication A, B, and C. Receive. So that they are okay. So we'll go to Member Smallwood has the inquiries. Member Smallwood?
I wanted to put forward that the Ottawa Police Services Board would direct board staff to conduct a review of the committee procedures and practices of other large boards in the country and report back to the board's Policy and Governance Committee, and that the committee make recommendations to the board with regard to committee structure and mandate to ensure that they continue to meet the board's expectations of transparency and accountability and contribute to an efficient and effective decision-making process.
That's an inquiry too. Thank you, Member Smallwood. Item number 1, the Chief's verbal report.
On the inquiry, I'm just asking, is that not more of a direction or a motion for action? It's not really an inquiry.
It's been the direction to staff to come up with.
But it's not really an inquiry. It's actually an action item. I think you need to make it more real.
Okay.
So turn it into a motion.
I would put that forward as a motion.
Okay. We don't need a we don't need a seconder, but we need to vote on it. We need to vote on the motion. Is the motion carried? Okay. Thank you.
Carried, thanks.
Carried. So before we turn it to the chief, also we have a few of my council colleagues in attendance. I believe Councillor Eglai, Councillor Deans, and Councillor Flutie. I'm not sure if I miss anybody in the audience, but I'm Councillor Lever as well. So thank you, folks, for being here with us tonight. And I'll turn it over to Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Inspector Gina Rosa passed away last week after a battle with cancer. Her passing came far too early and has left her family, her friends, and the members of the Ottawa Police Service grieving. Gina was a well-respected and well-liked officer who rose to the rank of inspector after 2 decades of policing. She will be missed. We're thankful for the opportunity to have known her and to have served with her. Last week, we were honored to accompany Gina and her family at her funeral, and I recognize Mr. Chair, Member Valiquette, and Member Tierney for attending as well. She and her family will remain in our thoughts and our prayers. And I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to stand to show our respect to Gina. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to recognize the hard work that led to the arrest of several individuals in the homicide of Mohammed Naji and the arrest of a man in the murder of Christina Volsing. We've seen 6 homicides in the first few months of this year, and investigations continue into those that are yet unsolved. I have great confidence in the various members from across our police service who are working very hard to find those responsible. I am pleased to inform the board that we continue to move forward on the new sworn transfer policy model. How we move officers around our organization has been identified as a key issue amongst many members of our police service. The sworn transfer policy has been developed with strong input from frontline members and in conjunction with the Ottawa Police Association. We work together to ensure that the policy is simple and clear, transparent, and performance-based. It's designed to enable officers to select their own career path and help managers plan their section rotations and succession planning. We're working hard to meet the needs of members and the needs of the organization. Another issue that has been identified is that of staffing. So I'm pleased to report that we have 12 new officers who will be road ready to patrol our streets on their own in May. We have another 22 new recruits who will be hitting the road in May with their coach officers. And another 20 recruits are heading off to the Ontario Police College. And finally, Mr. Chair, I want to thank the members involved in the ongoing work on the Service Initiative and the IMIT Roadmap. Policing across Canada is facing many challenges with rising citizens' expectations, increased oversight, changing trends in crime, and tightening budgets. We are meeting those challenges by looking for ways to improve and modernize our service. We've already seen the introduction of our collision reporting centers that have greatly reduced the number of collisions our patrol officers have had to respond to on patrol. In the coming months, background clearance checks will be done online. With the IMIT report, we're looking to create the IT infrastructure we will need to ensure our frontline officers have the tools to do their jobs and that we can continue to serve our community. The service initiative is investigating new ways of doing business that ensures that we are delivering the service people expect and that we are doing it in a way that is effective and efficient. In all this work, our focus is on keeping our community safe, reducing victimization, and holding offenders accountable. I know that several representatives from the community are here tonight to speak about the frontline deployment model. They are valued community partners, and their comments and views is exactly the kind of information we hope to gather during our upcoming consultation. Our service remains committed to and the fact that we are a community policing organization. The trusting relationship we have built over time with community we serve are the reasons we live in such a safe city. Mr. Chair, that's my verbal report.
Thank you, Chief. Any question on the Chief's verbal report? Can we receive the Chief's verbal report? Thank you. Thank you, Chief. And item number 2 is we have Crime Stopper. We have a short presentation from Mr. Richard McMullen, the President, and Trevor Pristo, the volunteer, and OPS Sergeant Wong, and Acting Staff Sergeant Cookson. So, Mr. McMullen, if you... welcome again, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's always a pleasure to be here. This time I thought we'd do it a little bit different, and I've got a PowerPoint with some slides and some imagery just to share with members of the board, the gallery, and others that might want to see that. So I'll put that up if I can. So this will be something just to keep us semi-entertained as I give our report. So again, thanks for the opportunity to share with you some of the successes we've had with Crime Stoppers. We truly appreciate the support that we get from OPS and the Police Services Board and members of council as well, and that has truly been beneficial. Providing these updates is a great opportunity, again, to share publicly some of the successes and some of the contributions that our program has made to our city and region, and we're just thrilled with that. 2015 marked a pretty substantive year in Crime Stoppers history. It was our 30th anniversary. It also was probably the largest increase in tip results in the metrics that we do report over many, many years. So we doubled, in fact, a great number of those metrics with a slight decrease in the actual number of tips, maybe 4% down. Through that, we were able to increase the number of arrests, criminal charges, the seizures, and we, in fact, saw our tip volume increase such that we were able to help police take 15 firearms off the street in 2015 versus 5 the year before. So a pretty substantive increase, and much of that, I believe, is due to the engagement that we had in the community. The items that we're out supporting our community, I think, have been tremendous. In fact, in 2015, we did 23 public presentations, 67 community meetings, 40 information tabletops, and over 940 hours of volunteer hours, not including fundraising or board activities, just young folks, youth in our community that participate in a wide variety of events. So this year actually will mark my 3rd year as president. Very proud of the achievements and the success that our board has been able to develop over time. Our board, I have shared with some, has encouraged me to seek a second term that I'm proud to accept, and I look forward to contributing again. So you may in fact see me at another upcoming session fairly soon. So that's been a great thing. Some of the things on our sort of forecast for the future, the Ontario Association of Crime Stoppers is hosting their annual Crime Stoppers Conference in Sudbury this year, and we're thrilled to be able to have 2 of our youth volunteers join Sergeant Wong and myself at this 4-day conference. It's going to be a great opportunity to share best practices, and more importantly for us, our program is one of 38 across the province, and we're seen as leaders and innovators, especially around youth and community engagement. And we're going to be able to share some of those success stories. So that's a positive message for us. January of this year marked our Crime Stoppers Month. It's something that's celebrated across the country. We were just thrilled to be able to attend and showcase at all sorts of different events, from shopping centres to the Ottawa Hospital's civic campus, college and university campuses. We also had the opportunity to do a bit of a launch at Ottawa Police Central Headquarters in January, and attended by the Minister Yasser Naqvi, Chair Al Shantiri, of course Chief Bordelot and his team. The OPP inspector for the region joined us, as well as our board colleagues and other folks. Our own Dave Smith, who sits on our board, helped us cut a cake and provide a good time for those attending. It was also an opportunity for us to launch our iconic Captain Canuck Crime Stoppers partnership. It's an event that we use to launch that comic book that's been great for us, engaging with young folks in the community in different events for sure. We also presented Chief Bordelot and the members of police services with a plaque to honour the 30-year community partnership that Crime Stoppers and the Ottawa Police Service have enjoyed, and it's pretty unique across this country. I can tell you from my perspective, to see a community organization that's non-governmental, doesn't get tax dollars or financial support, to work in a collaborative and partnering way is just truly outstanding. So we've got some great contributions we're able to make, but we absolutely appreciate that tremendous support. Our young people, as I mentioned earlier, are out at all kinds of different events. We attended a bullying awareness event that Councillor Hubley hosted here at City Hall back in February. Again, these are great opportunities for us to get out and connect with the community. We have partnerships with all sorts of different sections. One of the things that we highlighted in our report, again, is that partnership with the police service. So Guns and Gangs were instrumental in helping to develop a new bulletin that we could share publicly. We also were able to share a nice collaboration piece that we did with the Auto Theft Unit, specifically targeting the construction site thefts. We've been able to develop some real good solid partnerships with the Heavy Equipment Association of Ottawa and the Auto Construction Association as well. So these are really great opportunities for Crime Stoppers to get out and connect with the community. You may recall last May we did a launch with the National Coalition Against Contraband Tobacco. We've had some tremendous success with that program. We're going to do a relaunch on May the 10th here in the capital with those folks as well. So media continues to be a great source of awareness. Our Twitter at Crime Stoppers OT has been very active, over 1,700 followers. Our website, crimestoppers.ca and achecocrim.ca, is also very active. High numbers of page views, and that's been a real increase in awareness. We've also seen a growth in our traditional media, the folks that are sitting behind me, engaging and mentioning at the end of their broadcasts, or call Crime Stoppers with our iconic number. So that's been really important to see, and I can assure you that those steps make a huge impact. You know, when I joined Crime Stoppers, it was under kind of a challenging time in our history. Financially, we were in bleak circumstances. We're pleased to say that we've steadily improved and increased that support. This past year, we received a $50,000 grant from Economical Insurance over a 3-year period. That just helps to just allow us to move forward and be engaged with the community. Last thing I would mention is our charity golf tournament, July 20th at Pineview, is going to be a tremendous event as well, and obviously an opportunity for us to connect with the community and raise some funds for us. So, be happy to take any questions.
And Councillor Tierney, if you were still having your golf tournament at Pineview in his area. Good.
Chief, I believe you have a comment to make.
Yeah, not a question, just a comment, Mr. McMullen. Thank you so much for the work that you and your board did over this past year. Tripled the number of guns taken off our streets. You doubled the number of arrests, doubled the number of charges, and I think that's specifically due to your presence in the community. I was watching all the slideshows. You're everywhere in the community. Your team, you're on social media. And I think Art Wong and his people are doing an amazing job, and the volunteers on the board and the volunteers that are out there in the community representing Crime Stoppers are doing an amazing job. And I think Ottawa Crime Stoppers is a model to be used across our country as far as the success. So thank you very much for the work you continue to do. And I'm glad to hear that there's advocacy on renewing your 3-year term as president. We're looking forward to our continued relationship. Merci beaucoup.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chief, and Richard, thank you very much on behalf of the board for all you do, you and your team. We truly appreciate it. Can we receive the item from National Capital? Receive? Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. McMullen. So item number 6, Chief, Information Management Information Technology, IMIT Roadmap. I believe, I think Member Smallwood has a question about item number 6 as well, or? Okay. So do you folks need a small presentation, or you're good with your question? Can you put your mic on, please? Okay.
I actually reviewed the plans that they put forward, and I met with Director General Fraser as well on the issue. And I guess the one question I had was the roadmap will affect areas where work is highly manual and will impact a number of civilian jobs in those areas. And I'd be interested to find out what the plans are and how they plan to mitigate with that part of the plan.
Okay. Director General.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as a first step, Member Smallwood, we've also, when we briefed some of the board members, we've also met with our colleagues in the associations, both the OPA and the SOA, and it gave us an opportunity to walk them through our plan so that we, as colleagues, gain an understanding of the road that's ahead. The advantage of having a long-range plan, or a 7-year plan in our case, 6-year, 7-year plan, is that we can start to anticipate where these changes are happening. It gives us some runway or some room to start to anticipate changes and to plan for them, so that the knowing when the changes are going to happen, where they're going to happen in terms inside the organization, and the magnitude of them gives us all an opportunity to use kind of all the techniques at our disposal to help make those adjustments in the workforce. So we've been doing some forecasting. As the board is aware, we do hit some retirement peaks over the next few years, both on the civilian and the sworn side. So we'll be able to take advantage of civilian retirements. We have attrition as well that comes about as we have natural rotation within the workforce. We'll be using that to help deal with changes as manual jobs are taken out of the workforce, but new knowledge worker jobs come into the workforce. And we've also got retraining opportunities, because we're an employer that values taking we're known as a cradle-to-grave employer, taking our employees and helping them learn new roles. So with the help of the OPA, we'll be working collaboratively with them to ensure that we have a smooth transition throughout the 6 years of the work plan.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Smallwood. Member Turner.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Deborah, thanks for all the time you spent with me, and I think you've answered many of the questions, but I think it's good to go over some of where we are. I think we're really back in the 1961, car 54, where are you era of technology, which is concerning, but at the same time, this is a good opportunity where we're going to eliminate the opportunities for I don't want to say error, but the extra effort that Mr. Smallwood also mentioned, where triple entries are happening or triple searches are happening just for a simple volunteer search. That's stuff that technology can fulfill those needs. So you sold me on that aspect, but I did want to ask a couple of quick questions to make sure it's on the record that we're aware of this. What actions have been taken to really reduce the risk of this project? Because this is going to be something pretty dynamic and changing for this organization, like what we did with the City of Ottawa with Service Ottawa. So what have we done to make sure we mitigate those risks?
Director General.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've probably done 4 key things to ensure that that this program is that we can confidently recommend it and implement it. So we've started off in 2014, actually. So we're here tonight, but you're seeing the top of the iceberg. There's quite a bit that's gone on before we got here. We did a lot of requirements analysis, and that's usually a key to form follows function. So understanding the requirements of the organization has been critical. We've tapped into our staff. We tapped into the expertise of IBM, who are acknowledged in having an expertise in IMIT strategy. So we've used that as the building block for the plan. We also had a look at the organization's ability to absorb change and decided that a gradual implementation is the way to proceed, not a big bang, introduce the changes suddenly, but introduce them in a phased-in approach over 6 years. So you saw that we have a foundational phase, we have a transformative phase, and then an optimization phase. So we'll be able to introduce things in a way that won't overwhelm or flood the organization. In terms of procurement, we've built in off-ramps, so if we find that either the partners we're working with aren't satisfactory, we have a way to take ourselves out of those arrangements and re-engage with other partners that meet our needs so that we're not tied into one contractor only. And we've also engaged or recommended to the board that we maintain a relationship with Gartner. Gartner Consulting is an independent, widely recognized expert. They will be our partner. They will and ensure that the board and OPS gets the product and the services that we're contracting for. They'll hold our feet to the fire to deliver the roadmap to the board and our contracting partner as well. It's critical that we deliver the product on the time frame and at the cost that we commit to, but as well that we achieve the efficiencies and the benefits that we've promised, and that's their role in it.
Okay.
Great, and thank you for that. And I want to make sure, obviously, that we're not duplicating efforts. The city has a lot of experience in this regard as well. Have you consulted with our city as well from their IT perspective?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've used three kind of experts at the city. We certainly worked with the city CIO, Charles Duffett, who I think he's planning to be here this evening. He's been very supportive of the roadmap, and actually we acquired one piece of the roadmap early through the city's through their generosity. We've also used the city's procurement expert. Will McDonald is here tonight from procurement. They've supported our approach, and I met with Marion Similuk, the city treasurer, to make sure that our financing approach is in keeping with the city strategies.
And sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll keep it brief. Just the last one, and this is very transformative from a policing perspective in our city. I joke about Car 54, but we're really doing it very old-fashioned right now. So this is going to change everything. In the end, are we going to see savings? I think that's a question that we have in our mind.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. So you'll see in the report, we commit to just over $8 million worth of financial savings, and those are savings that will reduce expenses within the Ottawa Police budget over the 6-year time frame. And then we commit to non-financial savings. Those are the hours that will be freed up, both in terms of sworn officer hours, about 250,000, and about 75,000 civilian hours of time freed up, so not financial savings, but as we make work easier through items like the online background check process, we'll be able to redeploy hours within the Ottawa Police Service because administrative work will become easier to do and operational work for sworn officers will become easier to do.
And I just want to, as in closing, just want to thank you because I think that's something we've raised a couple of years now, especially on the volunteer checks. I think that the amount of effort that's put into those is mind-blowing, and I think technology is really going to make a big difference on that, so thank you very much for your work.
Thank you, Member Tony. Thank you, Director General. Mr. Vice Chair.
Deborah, and just to the final point that you referred to, and it was the 8.1 million savings in financial benefits, and then we had another, I think, 13.6 in what we would call more service initiatives. And when boards make decisions of this nature and look at that type of financial information, it's always one of the very persuasive parts. Obviously, all the other reasons are there, but certainly the key issue is the financial savings that are being generated with the service initiatives, et cetera. What I would like to know or find a way is for us to be able to, as this initiative moves forward, for you to be able to quantify that so that the board is able to see that these numbers were real numbers and not a pig in the poke 3 or 4 years down the road. Because those are substantial numbers, and in total we're looking at a little over $21 million. And it's a very persuasive reason, along with the others, to obviously take this step. And so if we could, every time this report is tabled, or at a time that you would recommend, I would like the board and future boards to have an opportunity to be able to see if those savings are very real. Okay?
Mr. Chair, yeah, absolutely. We got into the practice now of doing our benefits realization map, and reporting back to the board is critical, and we will do that to make sure that that you're holding our feet to the fire as far as what our commitments are, as far as achieving those efficiencies, and keeping us on track as well, and to see if there's anything else, new information coming in to as the world changes sometimes, that we're kept abreast of those changes.
But always tied into this report. I would always like to come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Member Velikat.
Yes, I appreciated the meeting that I had with you and your staff as well, Deborah. It really opened my eyes to lots of the challenges that you have and how this new technology will and should help our service. My question is in regards to Gartner Consulting. The amount that is indicated here, $4.4 million, is substantial over 5 years. It works out to about $890,000 a year. I know that you mentioned that they're highly regarded, I think, worldwide. Can you tell us what other police services they have worked with? And is there anything at this point in time that you can tell us how well those changes that they've helped make happen in other services, where they're at this point?
Director General.
I'm going to ask Daniel Steeves to come up and speak to that question. He's our CIO, and he's worked very closely with Gartner on the development of the proposal. They have undertaken some work in the U.S. and with some Canadian police services, and I think Daniel's can answer it more succinctly than I.
Okay, Daniel.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The period of time that we're talking about for Gartner is actually 6 years, not 5. And Gartner is actually one of the foremost consulting, not just for public safety that we're using them for in a particular specialty area, but also for IT in general. And pardon me, and this is across several industries, so whether it be for banking, for retail, et cetera. So we're looking not just for the public safety lens, we're looking for IT technology expertise. So when the various solutions are brought to the table, that the solutions that happen for police operations are also blended into the business that is the police service. So the expertise that we're asking for Gartner comes, yes, it comes at a price, but we're also asking for that risk mitigation piece that the other councillors have been asking about. So Gartner, for example, they led the $1 billion integration for NYPD. They were also a major contributor for LAPD. Like, they've done this before in other sectors. They're very good at what they do. And we're asking them to come in to help protect us as a service and also to help protect the board, both from a contracting perspective and an implementation perspective. So they're not actually doing the implementation. They're maintaining that third-party independence to help us and keep us protected as we go through this process.
Is that it, Member Velkat? Suzanne? Okay. Any other question? Member Nicholson?
So while I still have you here, I guess I understand what you're asking Gartner to do, and I understand they have experience, and I understand that they've worked with a lot of other people. I guess my question is, why sole source? It's a lot of money.
So the sole source is because of the expertise. I do not know of any other consulting agency at their level that can touch them. I attend the CIO conferences in Orlando once a year. The who's who in IT attend those conferences to determine the future direction of IT. They're the only agency that I know of in the world that actually sets the agenda for IT. And if there's any other agencies at their caliber, I would certainly love to know who they are. It's a very specialized
It's a pretty unique skill.
Yes, it is.
Okay. There's no other question. Is on the item K with the direction from the Vice Chair to keep receiving update on. Okay. Thank you very much, folks. And item number 8, we do have staff presentation, and we have few folks who sign up to speak. If anyone wishes to speak on this item and has not registered yet, you can still register your name. But we do have Cheryl Perrott, we have Lucy Marlowe, we have Councillor Jeff Leeper, who also registered before, and we have Yasna Janice, the Executive Director of the Byward Market BIA, and Councillor Matthew Fleury. But we'll have our staff presentation first, and we'll go to the public delegation. Chief?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. First, before I get going, I want to introduce my team members that are working with me, Inspector Rob Drummond, as well as Jane Wright, who are Program Manager for Service Initiative. And I think it's only appropriate, I know we acknowledged Inspector Gina Rosa, but that was her last position before she booked off sick, and we have to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that she did to get us to the point where we are today. So the purpose of this presentation, I got to use my glasses here, is to provide, and we had made a commitment to the board to provide an update on a regular basis on the Service Initiative program. Sorry, is this better? Lots of work has been done to date. There's been a significant amount of research, best practice reviews, internal consultation. The project, since we last presented to the Police Services Board in the fall, there's been a lot of work and outcomes and approvals that have been achieved to date. Now, as we move closer towards implementation, there is greater work that's going to be done around community consultation, and I will talk about that later. The board is quite familiar with the Service Initiative Program, not only from the presentation that we did last fall, but it does link into the business plan that was recently presented to yourselves. We wish to acknowledge the members of the community that are here today, and we appreciate the opportunity to hear from them not only today, but in the future consultation that will take place. And in the interest of the fact that there are a number of community members present, we will be providing some context and some background that may be repetitious for those who have heard the presentation from last fall. Okay, so just for a brief agenda to go over what we hope to cover tonight, we do want to speak to the policing context, the goals of the SI program, the new service delivery model, or we refer to it often as the integrated operating model, and that's comprised of the 5 projects that speak to the work that is currently being undertaken. And it's important to acknowledge the fact that these projects do not operate in isolation. They all contribute towards a final integrated operating model. There's a demand management project, a Frontline Project, the Investigative Services Project, Control Center, and courts. We will speak to the changes that have been made to date, and finally, we will speak to consultation efforts and engagement efforts that have been taken to date and that will now continue into the future. Okay. So, Service Initiative was launched some time ago to address pressures and challenges facing the policing. This is not just unique to the Ottawa context, but it's something that's being experienced by police services both nationally and internationally. Some of these pressures can be attributed to budget, the growth of the community that we serve, the changing demographics within our community, growing demands for service or changing and evolving demands for service, and the increasing complexity of crime. The role of policing continues to evolve, and we are here to ensure that we continue or maintain our ability to provide the core policing activities that are expected by the community. Service Initiative was intended to examine how we deliver services, make sure that we are effective and efficient in delivering these services, and also, as important, is ensure that we have a policing model for the future that is adaptable and flexible to meet the changing demands of the community that we are there to serve. Service Initiative is geared towards 4 outcomes. Just like any other service delivery program that has been done in the past, and there have been a number, is we look to get better and improve our ability to deliver service to the community. We do look for opportunities where we can become more efficient, both from a person and from a financial perspective, and we look for opportunities where we can leverage partnerships within the community to do the work that is required to ensure our community is safe. Also, there may be opportunities that arise through some of the work that we undertake to identify opportunities for cost recovery. Our policing responsibilities will still need to be carried out. There will be changes, but we are still committed to carrying out these duties. At the end of the day, I do come back to that sort of byline about being more effective, efficient, nimble, and adaptable for the future. So now I'm going to spend some time speaking to the projects and the work that's been done to date. Demand management is one of the projects that is currently underway. It's being led by Sergeant Jim Devine within the organization. It looks at how can we reduce the demand on the membership or on the service that we currently face. We have a goal within this to strive towards a 25 to 40% reduction in demand. That in turn will free up capacity for our officers to direct their activities towards changing and evolving demands placed upon them. And also free up capacity to direct some activities, and we will talk about it from a frontline perspective, towards more proactive and directed activity. Some of the analysis and work that has been accomplished to date is, as an example, is to illustrate the fact that Members of this particular team have taken an analysis of the priority 3 and priority 4 calls that are responded to by members of Frontline. There are opportunities where there is no risk to public safety, offenses not in progress, and there is no risk to person, property, or evidence, and that there may be alternative modes of service that can deliver that same service without having an officer respond from the front line. Some of this high-level numbers at this early stage have indicated that there could be a 40% reduction in the requirement for frontline officers to attend these sort of calls, and I am speaking specifically to P3, P4 calls. In order to maintain this service, they are looking at alternative response modes to still deliver that same service. Some of these alternative response modes speak to the ability to enhance our online reporting services, i.e. the internet, the ability to enhance or expand our services through the call center, taking reports over the phone, setting up appointments that is not only convenient, but is convenient to the public themselves, as well as opportunities for delayed mobile response and using an alternative response unit and enhancing our abilities to deal with those members of the public that walk in to the police station. I know we'll stay on the front line. Frontline Project is one that is taking a look at the integration of all frontline uniformed members responsible for mobile response, proactive policing, and community engagement. It is looking to how can we be more effective in coordinating our frontline operations and improve our ability to respond to demands and be proactive and address emerging crime. Through the best of intentions, over time, some of our operations have become siloed, and there are opportunities to make us a more nimble and adaptable organization to responding to some of the pressures that we face from a frontline perspective. This will allow, the new model will allow for a more fluid and flexible deployment and an ability to focus on at-risk and vulnerable communities that will be assisted and supported by the control center, which you will hear me talk about in a short while. Activities that we know today that are performed by frontline officers, and when we talk about frontline officers, we're talking about those that wear a uniform that are associated with district, patrol, emergency operations. Those activities, that work that is currently being done will continue to be done. How we do it, how we organize ourselves internally is what may be changing, and this is the basis for the new model. Of vital importance is that we recognize that the tenets, the foundation for community policing has been critical in our success as an ability to provide that service to the community. And some of those tenets will remain in place, and some of those that we've heard early on from the discussion with our members as well as members of the community are about maintaining the ability to have relationships and ensure consistency in dealing with members of the police service. However, I do bring you back to the fact is that the activities that are being performed today will continue to be performed in the future. So I will introduce you to a model that will help illustrate some of what we're talking about. Actually, I'm going to skip to the next slide and I'll back up to this one, please. So I would like to draw your attention to a frontline functional model that has been developed and it has been approved by our senior leadership at this point in time. This is a model that has been developed internal by the working group that is responsible for frontline deployment. And it looks at how can we better unify our frontline services in delivering the service and the functions that are currently provided today. And one of the key tenets is that we try to bring together people where they are aligned and introduce a generalist concept. And you will see that some of the units or some of the functions that are and activities that are currently being performed today will remain segregated or specialized. So if I draw your attention to the center of the ring, and this is the hub of our frontline model, functions that are currently performed today by what we know as patrol, neighborhood, beat demo, district traffic, and some of the CPC functions will be carried out by a frontline generalist approach. However, having said that, there are duties or activities that will be performed by other sections or groupings, that being traffic enforcement and escort, school resource officers, and a grouping of functions around youth intervention, community police centers, as well as mental health. These, although they could be aligned with Frontline or part of a generalist model, these, because of the unique role that they perform and the relationships that they have within the community, they will be segregated from the generalist Frontline model. And then there are those on the outer ring that speak to the specialized functions that need to be performed by those, because of the nature of the work, the skills, the training, need to be specialized. And we talk about canine, tactical, marine dive trail, and our explosives unit. If we go back, we'll go back one slide. All these bring together a unified frontline deployment functional design. This I really have to emphasize that this speaks to the function, the work, the activities that the members that are part of a frontline deployment model will perform. It does not speak to an organization structure or where people will work in the future. That is a piece of work that still has to be done. There is a significant amount of work that is currently underway and that will continue into the near future. And it's how we organize ourselves, how we have a hierarchy to support this model that will continue. And equally important is that members of the Frontline Deployment Group are working with the sections now to map out those activities and work packages that these members are currently responsible to and will continue into the future, and how will they be delivered. And I would like to point out is that also I talk about the fact is that the integrated operating model is not just projects in isolation. They are all linked together, whether it's demand reducing, the demand project reducing the demand placed upon the organization, the frontline deployment model trying to find a more efficient, effective, and unified effort to deliver frontline services. But the control center also plays a critical role in providing the coordination, the support, the prioritization, the intake, for all those demands upon the organization, in particular with the front line, and I will talk to that shortly. And this is the first step at painting that picture. Okay, we'll continue to the next one. Yes, thank you. The Investigative Project looked at centralizing our investigative functions and bring them all together to produce a more effective model. Currently, our investigative functions are aligned within 3 directorates. The new model will see these all function or work that is performed in an investigative capacity be brought together, but it will still maintain a decentralized deployment. The benefits of this will be improved processes around handling of investigations, improved decision making, better internal information sharing, the ability to set priorities, and one of the key benefits is the fluidity of the ability to move investigative resources around to address changing demands from an investigative standpoint and from a community standpoint. As indicated up there, we'll achieve this through centralized command, decentralized deployment, and one of the key tenets that we built this model upon is to align like functions and, where possible, group generalized duties and specialize only when necessary. The Control Center is another project that I'll speak to. This is about bringing the supporting our frontline model, supporting our organization, and it will be a process that will be iterative and is closely linked to the IT and IM roadmap. Some of the benefits that will be achieved by the implementation of the Control Center, and this is one of the projects along with CID that we will be seeing implemented towards the fall of this year, with a startup of a 7 days a week, 20 hours per day, moving towards a 7 days per week, 24-hour model in the new year of 2017. But some of the benefits that the Control Center will provide to the organization is an ability to provide a common operating picture for what is taking place across the entire city, enhancing our ability to manage and coordinate resources, and this better positions ourselves to use October 22nd as an example, where we'll have a real-time picture. It improves our ability, not that we didn't have the ability before, but to mobilize resources and respond to critical incidents of that nature and maintain the continuity of operations throughout the city. It'll increase our ability to have good situational and operational awareness of what's going on from all facets of policing and resources. One of the new benefits that we will see is the ability to support frontline officers as they respond to calls in the early stages of their investigation by leveraging technology, accessing social media, and making sure that when officers respond to calls for service, they have the appropriate amount of data that is relevant for them to do the duties that they're required to do. And also equally important will be, this will pre-position us to start to support some of our directed and proactive policing activities that our frontline deployment model will take on. And it will move us closer to a model that in the future we hope to see where we leverage predictive analytics and we leverage some of the benefits that we're going to see with the ITIM roadmap, whether it's ability to continue to monitor social media, to tap into multiple data sources to support frontline response, early investigations, or to access community CCTV. All these things will ensure that we're better able to serve the community. A lot of work has been underway in regards to this. This is a new entity. We're in the process of starting construction at Greenbank, and the startup model will see the introduction of a watch commander, an operations support coordinator, and a crime intelligence analyst component to support the operations at that point in time. Okay, finally, courts. Courts, there's been a tremendous work, and this is one of the projects that's been underway for some time. It's all about streamlining process related to court file quality and management, increasing or improving processes around court attendance, and prisoner management, and also part of that scope of work includes the ability to provide better VC or victim crisis unit services. Okay. So a lot of work has taken place since we last presented to the board. When we speak about the integrated operating model, those are the 5 projects that I spoke to in a fair amount of detail. There's been a number of approvals that have been required to move things along, and they have been progressing. A piece of work that I would like to speak to is the merit pilot. We were successful as an organization in securing an $80,000 grant to support some of the work, and have been very successful in bringing together and mobilizing various public safety groups and ensuring that we work collaboratively together to solve issues within at-risk communities. There's a number of efficiencies that we have realized since that point in time that we last presented. We no longer take lost property reports because part of the outcome of that work was recognizing that that was a duplication of effort that was undertaken by other entities in the community. The front desk, given demand, or the limited demand at both Leitrim and Greenbank were closed in order to streamline services and deploy resources where they could be better utilized. The ability to report online, that has been enhanced and will continue to be enhanced as we move into the future. As an example to illustrate that is that prior to the implementation of this change is you could only report for a value of a theft that was under $5,000. Now that has been removed. A new change that will come about is the bylaws. Police will stop responding to bylaw services unless there is a public safety issue or a requirement for police as of May 1st. This will see the reduction in calls for service to the police by approximately 3,000. And as I mentioned before, construction of a control center is currently underway. Lastly, I'd like to speak to the issue of consultation and engagement. To this date, consultation has been focused mostly inward. I would like to point out that this is not just the work of a few people dedicated or full-time working on the service initiative team, but this is work being done by in excess of 100 members that are part of the various working groups that support the work that's being undertaken. In essence, it's work by the members, for the members, etc. And at this point in time, I will speak to how we will engage the community. But as we've been moving along, there have been open houses, briefings to our patrol section, specialty sections, and unit presentations to make sure that all of those that work within the Ottawa Police Service are aware of the need to change, and as changes are approved and move along, that consultation, that information will continue to be shared. At certain times, we also have had the opportunity to brief the Ottawa Police Association as well as the Senior Officers Association. We have engaged other emergency services, police services, and community partners. And as the models continue to be fully developed, there will be more consultation. I think the most important part, and that I would like to speak to, is about now that there has been a significant amount of work to bring us to a model by the members within the organization. And now that we've had the opportunity to present to the Police Services Board, this would be the appropriate time to engage the community in consultation. There is work being done as we speak to develop a strategy, and that strategy will be completed in early May, and it will speak to the multiple forums and activities that will support the community consultation. And you see a few of them up there that are recommended around electronic forum, stakeholder meetings, and public presentations. We know what the community has to offer is important. We look to incorporate the feedback from the community into the model, and as I have spoken to previously, we're looking not to change the model, but to enhance and strengthen the community policing model that has brought us to today and has made us successful in that area. So in conclusion, last slide. I think we spoke at the beginning that reforms were required to continue to deliver the policing service that is expected by the community and to adapt to the future. We are looking and are committed to enhancing our community safety. And as I mentioned, as community consultation will continue or will begin. And there will be more information provided on that in the near future. And the outcome that we're looking to achieve here is to have a more effective, efficient police service that is sustainable into the future and adaptable for new and emerging trends in crime.
Thank you, Superintendent Ford. Chief?
Mr. Chair, you know, the policing model that we're working under right now, the service delivery model, was implemented in 1995. And it has been tweaked over the years to make sure that we continue to be responsive to our members in the community. But policing continues to evolve at a rapid pace. So we recognized that in order for us to really meet those challenges of the present and the future, we needed to transform the organization and come up with a new way of doing business to make sure that we are effective and efficient. And, you know, the first step was looking at what are the calls that are coming into our organization and how are we handling those calls, and should we be taking those calls for service. So that's the demand management. And Frontline is to make sure that all uniformed people that work with us are under one umbrella and are out there delivering the services and doing the very difficult work that policing is today, and to make sure we're having the right people at the right time doing the right work. From the investigative perspective, is making sure that we have the highly skilled investigators dealing with specific crimes, and making sure that we have the flexibility and the ability to move those resources around as crime trends shifts. And there's a lot of work that's been done in our court system, and we're working with the Crown Attorney and the Attorney General's office to make sure that that whole system gets reviewed. And the last piece, the fifth project, was around the control center. A lot of the organizations are referred to that as a real-time crime center. There are tremendous opportunities for us to become smarter in understanding crime trends, to be more predictive as far as what's taking place in our communities, and to put the resources ahead of time in place to deal with those as we get better at predicting crime. So it's not happenstance that we're rolling out the IMIT strategy at the same time. The work that's being done from an IT perspective is there to support the operations and the work that we're doing in ensuring that we're delivering a quality service. So we're not losing sight whatsoever of the basic tenets of community policing, that philosophy and the relationships that need to happen. That's what has made us successful in the past, and that's what will continue to keep us successful in working with our community. And we're really looking forward now to, now that we have a a straw dog model to go out with, and having that consultation and understanding and hearing from the community what's important to them to make sure that whatever model we come up with and the structure is respective of what the community needs. So I want to thank Mark. Deputy Chief Skinner is out of town, but Mark, Jane, and Rob and the entire Service Initiative team that have been working tirelessly at doing all this work, and there's several members across this organization that continue to be involved with the Service Initiative. But I have every confidence that this model and the way we're going to do business will serve this community well for years to come.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, folks. Before you go, board member, we have 7 folks has registered to speak for us, but we can have quick questions for clarification. Member Smallwood? Do you have a question up? Okay, we can. Okay. Well, so for the delegation, we have to go in order they came to us. We'll start with Cheryl Perard from Hintonburg Community Association, and we do have a copy of letter and submission in our agenda. Cheryl? Okay, Ms. Perrott, you have 5 minutes to address the board, so if you can please proceed. Can you put the time?
Hi, I'm actually here representing a number of different groups. I'm representing the Civic Hospital Neighborhood Association, the Hintonburg Community Association, Mechanicsville Community Association, the Preston Street BIA, and the Italian Canadian Community Centre on Gladstone, just to save you a bit of time with one speaker. We have all been very strong, effective partners with police for 25 years. We've worked really hard, and we brought value to the police service. Crimes decreased. As an example, Hintonburg went from the highest calls for service to the lowest calls for service. That's a huge cost savings for the police. Police didn't do this alone. It was through the strong partnership with the community. And this is one example of community documentation of one of the big crack houses that took 10 years to close. This is the community part. Your pages were 6,000 pages. 9 years ago, we came before you to request that the Community Police Center move into the Hintonburg Community Center. The police were paying $90,000 a year in rent for a storefront further down Wellington. We spent months working very closely with the inspector, and the police center was moved in 2007. You now pay $8,000 a month in rent in the community center. Nobody knows who's going in there. It's very discreet. And that money that you've saved, the over $80,000 a year, goes into youth programming. So it goes, and it's free youth programming. So that's a real crime prevention action. So this wins everyone. Our concern is there has been no consultation on the SI with stakeholders and partners, and we're your partners. We heard rumors a month ago, and it's taken a lot of work for us to try to ferret out any information. I've talked to a few officers, but we still really don't feel we understand what the implications are to us. So we're told that no one knows what the new model looks like. Is our CPC officers, our neighborhood officers, our CPC center, are they gone? Are they staying? Who do we call? Realistically, this is only 5 months to implementation. So how is this all going to happen? It's a huge change that we feel is really going to affect us. So to the board, we need meaningful consultation, not just an information session. We ask that you direct the police to bring this back to Police Services Board at the end of the consultation for another discussion and debate, not just provide a report to the community on the decision. The problems that we see, this is a shift from proactive policing to reactive policing by losing our community police officers, neighborhood officers, beat officers. A lack of continuity with the same officer. If they're out on patrol in different parts of the city, who do we connect with? We have spent 25 years training everyone, call your CPC officer. And I have to tell you, that's not an easy job. It's a reinforcing job. Patrol can't fulfill that function. There's a new model of the multi-stakeholder approach to problem addresses. That really started in Hindenburg in 1995 under a much more simple name than this. It's a model that works. The model shows that the CPC officer is the lead on this. So if we don't have one, where do we start? Or will they do it in their spare time when they're not on patrol? The specialized units made the difference. The NHOs worked their hearts out, the beat officers. They could focus on a problem and they could work to find a solution rather than just responding to calls at the same location day after day after day after day, and that has happened for 20 years. They found the solutions. Their work resulted in a decrease in calls for service, and they gave us quality of life. The community connections take a long time to build. That trust with a police officer in the community is not automatic. It takes a lot of work, and it's trust both ways. So in many parts of the city, residents don't readily call the police or provide information. Without an officer that they know and build trust with, it's not going to happen. Evidence-based decision-making is the new normal. So please look at the evidence. If the present community policing model wasn't working, why do we get asked for advice on best practices? From many communities, and not more than 3 weeks ago, the police called us for some best practices. So clearly it has worked. We understand you have shortages of officers and financial things you have to deal with. But please, don't take away the resources that have worked for us and so are important to us. So work with us to find the efficiencies. We can help you.
Can you please wrap up, Cheryl? You're 5 minutes up. Can you wrap up, please?
Yep, I think I'm really there. So we're partners. Please work with us. Please come back to Police Services Board to present the findings, and let's have a debate on this once we know what the model is, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any question for the presenter? See none. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for presenting to us. The next speaker, Lucy Marlowe from Crime Prevention Vanier. Good evening, Lucy.
Oui, bonsoir. Merci pour l'opportunité de vous adresser aujourd'hui. Je suis ici pour souligner l'importance des services de police dans nos communautés. Thank you, Cheryl. You're an inspiration to us would-be crime fighters. My name is Lucie Marleau, and I'm the founder of Crime Prevention Vanier and the Neighborhood Watch Program Volunteer Coordinator in Vanier. I'm here to speak on the importance of the community police officer and the community police service here in Vanier. Last year, not one, but 2 community groups successfully nominated our CPO, Constable Jacques Carrière, for Crime Prevention Ottawa's Community Enforcement Professional Award. The nomination was accompanied by no less than 7 letters of support from community groups and merchants. In his 2.5 years as Vanier CPO, Constable Carrière made a priority of connecting the Ottawa Police Service and its Community Police Centre and the services it offers to Vanier residents and community groups. Constable Carrière took a proactive approach to community policing by engaging with local residents, merchants, and community groups and services in order to fully understand the area's safety concerns. Thanks to his multi-pronged approach to policing, he understood the importance of fostering strong and collaborative relationships with all key stakeholders living and working in Vanier. At the urging of Constable Carrière, I successfully applied to the Ottawa Police Service for a volunteer position as Neighborhood Watch Program Coordinator in Vanier. Together, we conducted an audit of Vanier's Neighborhood Watch program. We identified the watches that were active, abandoned, and struggling. We collaborated on finding new captains for the orphaned watches, offered OPS meet and greet events to existing and potential watches, and we ensured that our watches had the support and tools required to effectively address safety issues. Our CPO was instrumental in reviving Vanier's Neighborhood Watch program. Without the leadership of our community police officer, the Neighborhood Watch program in Vanier would still be in tatters. He consistently supported Crime Prevention Vanier's efforts and advocacy for greater safety awareness in Vanier. I remember when I reported to 311 that a local prostitute had once again graffiti tagged a bench at the corner of Merier and Montreal Road as her office. Our CPO immediately sent an email to 311 endorsing my request for the prompt removal of the graffiti. The graffiti was removed within 48 hours. He urged the Wabano Centre for Aboriginal Health to activate a trespass to property authorization, thereby giving OPS the authorization to remove loiterers from its property. He advocated for new gates on selected properties to impede criminal activity and inappropriate use of their parking lots by drivers, sex trade workers, and Johns. He suggested buzzer-activated entrances so business owners and staff can prevent inappropriate use of its premises. And as importantly, active and frequent use of the CPC offices by community groups and volunteers to increase its visibility, importance, and relevance to Vanier. Only an effective CPO who knows his or her area well would know to do these things. Our community police officer plays a vital role in facilitating resident engagement to make our community safer. That the Ottawa Police Service is only as good as the support it receives from the citizens it serves. Unfortunately, Vanier wasn't mobilized to the extent it is today when OPS decided to merge Vanier, Overbrook, and Manor Park under one CPO. It is a decision I wish I could undo, given the big demand for police services, particularly in Vanier and Overbrook. At the time when Vanier needed more services, OPS chose to water down the services it offered to us. Should a proposal to remove our one and only CPO come to be, it will have a harmful effect on Vanier. As well, such a move would be counterintuitive to everything OPS has been drumming into us for a decade, which is to report so OPS knows how and where to allocate its resources. On many occasions, the former and current police chiefs have publicly thanked the residents of Vanier for bringing concerns to the attention of OPS, allowing it to shut down drug houses, execute John sweeps, among other successful OPS operations in Vanier. From my perspective, community policing is still in its infancy, and it can take decades to thoroughly implement. Since 2007, community groups in Vanier have worked tirelessly to support that approach by urging residents to engage OPS, and still it continues to be an uphill challenge. Almost done. Removing our CPO and our community police center on MacArthur, if that too is being considered, will be detrimental to Vanier and possibly undo a decade of community efforts. Many improvements have been made in terms of crime prevention and reporting in Vanier, and for that we are grateful for the support we have received from our CPO. We have had to work too hard to forge a healthy and collaborative rapport with OPS to have the CPO position and CPC removed. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the presenter? Okay, I see none. Thank you very much, Lucy. Our next presenter is Councillor Jeff Leeper, Ward 15, Kitchissippi. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Directors, for this opportunity to address the Board. I address it not just as the representative for Kitchissippi Ward, but also as a 20-year activist and volunteer with the Hintonburg Community Association, resident of Hintonburg. I don't think I need to belabor the Hintonburg story. 20 years ago, we had as many as 24 crack houses operating in the neighborhood. Today, the neighborhood is much, much safer. And that is in large part due to the central role that has been played by the community police officer. A community police officer who has the intimate knowledge of a neighborhood is key to that neighborhood safety. Local community police officers provide a safe space for people to have sensitive conversations with police. Community officers, as Cheryl said, become trusted faces over time in the community, and it's the work that they do on the ground, day to day, gathering the information from residents that allows police to be most effective. And it's the time and the mandate that the community police officer has to be proactive about persistent issues in the community that helps them to be effective as well. You've heard a couple of times, and I'm sure you'll hear it again, a crack house is not an incident to which you can respond with a single response. It can take years to shut one down. And it's the community police officer who you heard Ms. Parrott talk about, who can be at the center of that relationship between the city's bylaw, fire, public health, provincial agencies, elected officials, and residents. The community police officer plays that key coordinating role. Now, the residents of Kitchissippi have been hearing for weeks about potential changes. Just in the past few days, I've heard concerns similar to those being expressed by some of the residents of Kitchissippi, being expressed by residents to me from across the city, in urban wards, in rural wards, in suburban wards, and yes, I've heard from officers as well some of the same concerns. And what we don't know, what is causing us to be so nervous, is how community policing could potentially be changed by this strategic initiative. We don't know how officers will be assigned to our neighborhood, how long they'll stay, what mandate they'll have to be proactive and have the length of time to be persistent with problem properties. We don't know what the point of contact will be between residents and police on some of the persistent issues in our neighborhoods. We don't know whether or not our community police centers will remain open. I'm open-minded to new models. I'm very cognizant of the need to find efficiencies in the way the police services delivers the services that Ottawans count on. But the outcomes have to be the same. The current community police model is delivering results. You've heard about the cost savings. You've heard about the difference to the quality of life for residents like me in affected communities. In order to achieve those outcomes, we need to make sure that we're listening to the residents. And the time for meaningful consultation is now. The update that you're receiving this evening speaks to the opportunity for feedback, the opportunity for information sharing. I am very, very pleased to hear the direction in which the conversation turned this evening of more meaningful consultation. It seems to many residents that a lot of work has gone into this plan already, and we're nervous that final decisions have been made. The time for a good, meaningful consultation to take advantage of the energy and the creativity and the experience of residents is now. And my ask of you this evening is to ensure that you have those discussions with us, with the residents, to ensure that our communities continue to benefit from the incredible service that Ottawa Police Service has been delivering to us. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And a question for Councillor Lieber? I see none. Thank you very much, Councillor. Our next presenter is Yasna Jan. Yes, on behalf of the Executive Director of the Byward Market BIA. Yasna, welcome.
Good. Thank you.
You know the drill, Yasna. 5 minutes.
I do. I hope I'm as close to 5 as possible. Okay, on behalf of the Byward Market BIA, our Board of Directors, our 600-plus business members, and the Byward Market Safety and Security Committee, representing a wide group of diverse stakeholders, including businesses, residents, and community partners, we are here today to express our sincere concerns about the proposed new direction outlined in the SI update. Both Byward Market businesses and our visitors rely on our NHOs, foot patrol, and beat officers to maintain a safe and welcome atmosphere. The regular presence and interaction with officers who are specifically assigned to the area is our greatest asset in terms of addressing our challenging and diverse safety and security needs. We're the #1 tourist attraction. We have a provincial tourism designation. We're home to the largest and oldest outdoor market, open 363 days a year. We're home to 600 businesses, National Gallery of Canada, Canadian Mint, Notre Dame Basilica, and the U.S. Embassy. But beyond our borders, our larger community includes Rideau, Lower Town East, and Sandy Hill. Each individual has diverse and complicated issues, but they're all interconnected. Within the Greater District, we have the World UNESCO Heritage Site, the Rideau Canal, Shaw Centre, Rideau Centre, University of Ottawa, numerous hotels, and a future LRT station. But within this, we also have an interprovincial truck route through its heart, a major bus and transportation corridor, 3 major homeless shelters housing over 1,000 homeless, dozens of drop-in centers, hundreds of supportive and public housing units, several harm reduction programs, including needle distribution sites, and the proposed location of a supervised injection site. This unbelievable clash of cultures and diversity of stakeholders presents a very unique challenge in regards to maintaining a safe and secure environment for all stakeholders. This is only going to be achieved with a consistent team of proactive officers specifically assigned to the area, officers who possess a profound knowledge of the players, circumstances, and geography of the area. Under the proposed new model, who will be the area specialist? Who will be responsible for operational planning if there are no longer community or neighborhood specialists making those decisions? The downtown area players and situations change regularly. Who will be responsible to keep track of the changes and be the experts in our area? How will you replace that value? Councillors, if you can imagine, you no longer have a frontline staff, you just have a pool of secretaries in which to draw from. They don't know your ward, they don't know the players. How are you going to manage with a generalized pool of secretaries? And that is our concern. Over the last few years, the greater commitment and focus on proactive policing through dedicated foot patrols, demo beats, and beat cops has produced real and tangible results. Since our low point, or our high in statistics in 2006, our street ambassador stats have shown significant decreases in negative and problematic behavior on the streets, in the market, and overall customer safety is very, very high. But the gains will be quickly lost if we lose these dedicated officers. In 2006, the Downtown Coalition for a Safe Community was formed, and the District and Neighbourhood Officers played a leading role in that initiative. The idea to bring all the stakeholders together was suggested by an NHO constable. And the District Inspector and Staff Sergeant were instrumental in the formalization of that group. There's no greater sense of safety for a community member than face-to-face interactions, relationship building with neighborhood officers. Their constant presence, whether it's a chance meeting on the sidewalk or a specific drop into a business, builds that relationship and trust. And this sense of trust takes a significant amount of time to build, but that trust can be broken and lost very quickly. An officer sitting in a car is cold and intimidating. Our additional concerns are also related to the timing. January 1st, 2017. We're supposed to be welcoming an extra million tourists. We're supposed to be putting our best face forward. 2017 is not the time to make sweeping changes to service delivery, changes that will undoubtedly take time to tweak and perfect. Finally, we must call attention to the absence of advanced and meaningful consultation with the community at large, the very citizens who rely on your service. Community members are also on the front lines. Our varied experiences, knowledge, and proficiencies are also extremely valuable to the police service process. I can wrap this up. Was that my timer? Yeah. Changes to delivery and police services have a very significant impact on our community. With this in mind, we request meaningful and engaging consultation in a process that is recommending such sweeping institutional and organizational changes. Furthermore, it's incredibly concerning to hear that neighborhood and district officers have already been informed that they will be reassigned. Their positions no longer exist. This sounds very much like a done deal and not under consideration or open to consultation. We truly hope that is not the case. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jeff. Any questions for the... No, thank you very much. Now Our next presenter is Councillor Flutie.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to do it differently. I wonder if you're allowing me to ask questions to the Chief or to yourself. We've heard from my BIAs, from my residents. I wonder how that procedurally works.
We can't take this dialogue. If you have a direct question to me, I can pass it on to the Chief, but we're not going to have that exchange right here. So if you have a presentation, we'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, you can call the Chief anytime or anyone to meet with his staff as well. But if you have any presentation now, we'd love to hear from the Councillor.
Yeah, well, I'll give my presentation, and hopefully some members of the board can follow up with certain questions to the Chief following that. So I'd like to start by saying that I've only encountered positive interactions between the police service and residents. I've been in office for 6 years, and as highlighted by Crime Prevention Vanier, it's always been very close, very open, very, very engaging. And I came across, I think many of you would have read recently, the decision that was made regarding bylaw services and OPS not responding to noise call. And we've taken that aside, and that discussion is continuing. I don't want to dwell on that issue, but to me it highlighted a challenge that as a member of council, as a member of the community, this came about as fait accompli. That's how we took it. And I think that's what you're hearing from a lot of the members behind me, is that there are decisions that are perhaps the best. Perhaps change is what the operations need. I'm not a police officer. I'm not an executive. I'm not the board. So I'm not. Je passe toute cette information. But I do think that parallel processes of making these decisions while gathering feedback from the community, businesses, is important, especially with those strong ties that we have in terms of response to security. So I don't know where you're at. I recognize that there's a presentation that was done this evening. I recognize that there's a consultation that's planned for the future. I would indulge the group to say, i.e. the bylaw changes that have come in, can we just put a hold on that, open up the discussions within community, because there are risks that although change is good, although modernization is good, that if these aren't aligned, that we're opening ourselves up to more risk, and I think what you're hearing from the community is we want to continue to see these teams work together, and OPS as part of the emergency services, as part of the business sector, and as part of the community association is seen as a focal point for those teams. So I'm sorry, I would have loved to be able to ask some questions, but that kind of summarizes my direction, Mr. Chair.
Well, first of all, thank you, Councillor. But as you and we attended the same meeting, the discussion about changes in responding to calls to bylaw has been taking place since 2013. To come in here and say, we didn't hear about it. No, we heard about it. We didn't like the answer, but we heard about it. But nevertheless, we are continuing to work with you and your office and legal staff and the police, try to work together and try to achieve a common basically direction so we can live with and work with. But nevertheless, when we invited the Deputy Skinner, who's in charge of the SI, she read from exchange with our staff begin by the end of 2013. So, Councillor, we would love to continue working with you. I know you don't like the response you receive. Police will not be responding to TV loud at 4 o'clock or at 3 o'clock in the morning when our police dealing with bars and tens of thousands of people leaving the market. I think you heard that discussion as well. But to come in here and say this, I don't think that's really fair. But nevertheless, we're welcome to continue working with you. I believe there's a meeting coming soon with Mr. O'Connor, the Chief, myself, and yourself, and we look forward to continuing that dialogue.
Just to be clear, my discussion specifically to noise is really an aside. What I'm speaking about is that changes are happening, and members of council that are not on the board are not engaged in the process. That was my meaning, and it's the same that I'm speaking about concerns specifically from what we're hearing from the community. So I appreciate what you're saying around bylaw, and I wasn't asking us to relook at it. I'm really asking specifically to engagement.
Thank you, Councillor. Our next presenter, Executive Director of Vanier Business BIA, Jamie Wong. Good evening, Jamie. If you can put your mic on, please. And you have 5 minutes to speak to the board.
Yes. Okay. This is rather spontaneous. I was just coming to listen in and hear the feedback of the community. But I think I want to echo what my counterpart of the Byward Market BIA, Councillor Matthew Fleury, Rito Vanier, and community member Lucy Marlowe, who's very active in our community in preventing crime and keeping us aware of things. What we really want to focus on, so the Vanier BIA, we work directly with our community police constable. We have a really great relationship with him, as does most of our community. He's really taken a proactive approach to keeping our BIA and businesses informed on things, but also, like, he would explain changes in legislation and how that impacts enforcement, where most people, lay people, don't understand that. So he's able to give that perspective and how that impacts Vanier. So, namely, this would affect prostitution and sweeps and things like that, John sweeps. So I think that's very, very important. But also he takes a proactive role with working with our businesses in finding ways to reduce theft, loitering, crime, robbery, which are constantly concerns. A few months ago, we actually went around with Constable Jacques Carrière, his counterparts in Centertown and Chinatown, and Glebe, I guess, Neely and Hunt, and we did visits with targeted businesses to give them business tips for crime prevention. And a lot of them, when we actually talked to them, they never even thought about reporting. They don't realize the importance of reporting, but they always tell us and community members indirectly of the crimes that they're witnessing, drugs, loitering, robberies, their staff and patrons not feeling safe. And with each one, we talked with them the importance of reporting, to telling him and telling the general, reporting it to the police, because that's how you guys will allocate resources and become aware of things and can track changes over time. So yes, a few months ago, we also, Lucy nominated Jacques for a community award. I was basically just running out of the office and printed that letter, but that basically sums up our relationship with our local police constable. I don't know if he actually saw this, but I just will read this quickly. It's very short. Over the last 2 years, Constable Jacques Carrière has been an integral part of the Vanier community as the community police officer in the area. On behalf of Quartier Vanier Business Improvement Area, we'd like to support Lucy Marlowe's nomination of him for the Crime Prevention Ottawa Enforcement Professional Award. The BIA has had the pleasure of working closely with Constable Carrière in preventing crime and enhancing community safety in Vanier. He invited the BIA's Merchant Program Coordinator to take part in OPS SEPTED training course, allowing the opportunity for our BIA to gain valuable information for the benefit of our local community. He always keeps us informed, keeping our local, our Merchant Program Coordinator abreast on any issues, such as local robberies affecting our businesses, and is an active part in our safety committee meetings, which are held bi-monthly. When merchants bring up concerns, he is always proactive in finding solutions. For instance, Constable Carrière works closely with the QVBIA's Merchant Programs Coordinator in applying crime prevention through environmental design assessments. This has dealt with issues of loitering and a motorcycle kind of like groupings that can cause like some distractions for local businesses. He's helped calm those kind of issues down. He recognizes the tagging that happens in our area. He has a very, very personal relationship with our community. And so I just want to echo the other community members in saying the importance of having these community police constables. The relationship that they have is what will help keep you guys informed on what's going on in the neighborhood, will help our community feel safer in reporting, because often it's not an anonymous entity anymore. It's a direct person that directly cares about the community. So that's all I have to say about that. And so I hope that as you guys reconfigure things, how you offer services, that is a key element. And as you've seen with the strong passion from our community, that is something that our community does want. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. No question for Jamie. Thank you. Our last presenter, Councillor Diane Dean. Councillor? If anybody didn't register, wish to speak, you can register now, please.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I didn't actually come here to speak today, but I've been inspired by the conversation to just add a couple of comments. First, I wanted to say that I certainly recognize the task that you have ahead. Any organization needs to modernize, needs to stay current, and needs to change their practices from time to time. And I understand that there are lots of pressures financially on the police service here that you need to deal with. But what concerns thing is I think the part that appears to be under consideration for dismantling is what I would reflect as a member of council, having 22 years of experience, as the part that works the very best in our communities. I would tell you that there have been so many fires put out, so many disasters averted, so many problems solved by virtue of the system that has community police officers and has an inspector where we have one point of contact that deals with all of our problems. And I'm looking at my council colleagues sitting on the Police Services Board, and I know you know, like I know, that when we have a problem, we really rely on those relationships. We don't have to. The new hub model, it seems to me, is a model that will mean that we just call and we don't have the same relationship. And I would say the cornerstone of policing is developing those community relationships. And I'm concerned that we're dismantling that. I'm wondering what will happen to our inspectors where we have developed great relationships in the past. And our community police officers are known to the community. They're so important in those communities. They're the face of policing. They're the ambassadors of policing. They're the people that have built the trust in the neighborhoods. And I think that every community, whether it be rural, suburban, or urban, will feel that this is not the best way to go. And I worry that the public consultation is coming way too late in the process. In the City of Toronto, they did public consultation early in the process. And I think we can learn from that, because if the decision has already been made, which is what we've heard a lot of people say tonight, then that's too late. So I would just implore you to maybe take a step back and to reflect on how important community policing is, how important the trust that we have built over years and years in the community is. And, you know, I would tell you that it's huge value for money. So when you're thinking about the bottom line, you're thinking about modernizing, also think about what works. Because that old maxim, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, seems to apply in this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. We have Steve Minnock. Mr. Minnock, you have 5 minutes to speak to the board.
I don't think it'll be that long. Thanks, Councillor Elshantiri. I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Dean said. I think the most important thing that I find here is losing the point of contact. I've been in the Byward market for almost 30 years, and I think I've worked with almost everybody from my left here and everybody behind me that's sitting here with a uniform on, and it's very important with that point of contact. And I'm going to maybe speak about a couple incidents. The Byward Market, I think, is probably the safest entertainment district that there is in North America. I've been to a few. I've participated in a lot of them. We've had problems in the market with HA, with gang members. I've always had a point of contact. They're not always doing anything really wrong. What do? Do I call 911 now? Do I call 311? I've always had a point of contact to be able to call somebody and say, hey, for some reason there's 20 guys down here with patches on. They're in front of an establishment. They're walking the streets. You know, I know we're having a different type of gang problem here. We need a point of contact. These NHOs, for me, for 28 years, has made my staff, of which I have 700 now, my doormen, who are mostly 19 and 20 years old, that work at or go to school at Ottawa U, make them feel very, very safe to know the guys that they're dealing with. It makes it for a very, very safe area to have the point of contact, and I think my biggest concern is just losing that.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. We have Peter, I believe, on OPS GLBT.
Thank you, officers, councillors. I'm the community co-chair of Ottawa Police GLBT Liaison Committee. good to be here for the first time in this role. When I heard the presentation earlier, it was wonderful, and I thought it was very good. My concern comes from when this, in some form, gets implemented, what mechanisms for feedback from the communities, what mechanisms for tweaking it, so to speak. It may be a bumpy first little while. So that's kind of what I didn't hear from the reports. Maybe it's through this board, through this bodies, our liaison committee, compact, etc., for community feedback. When it gets, where do we go? How, is there a quarterly reporting mechanism? Is there some stats going to be taken? So that was my concern from this one. And then on another note, we're going to celebrate our 25th anniversary in the fall, so we'll keep you posted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Peter. And now we have Peggy Dishme from downtown Rideau BIA. Peg? No one, just the last one.
Good evening. I also have been attending and was not planning on speaking, so I will be brief. I just wanted to make my presence known as being in attendance this evening, and to also expressing, I guess, the same concerns that the councillors have noted, as well as my other BIA colleagues, in that this has come at very short notice, I believe, to the community. I've only myself heard about it in the last couple of weeks, and that was from some of the officers in the area wanting to know if I'd heard. So I do believe that there's probably been a gap in the process, and that there should be an opportunity provided to close that gap and consult with community. I would also like to note that as a member of a board member of the International Downtowns Association and a member of the National Coalition of Downtowns Canada, this is not a topic that is on the trend of downtowns movements nationally or internationally that I'm aware of. If it is, it may just be on its way, but I think that I would like that opportunity as well to consult with my colleagues in the greater context of this country and globally to see what else is happening on this topic in that respect. And I think that with that, I'll just say that Rideau itself, downtown Rideau itself, has been one of the districts that has seen a little bit of a less, I think, engagement with police community over the years, and that's because we are such a density area and a high call demand with the Rideau Centre and the larger shopping retailers in the Byward Market area. So the concerns that you are hearing from the community, I've already been experiencing them in my community and have become somewhat used to them, which is not acceptable. It's my reality, and I now see that others are starting to feel the pain of what will be. And I can let you know right now that what will happen is apathy in the community, and you will see a reduction in calls for service because people will not be calling in to report, because they will just become disengaged and feel that they will not have any effect by engaging the process to report to policing. So you will see that gap happen, in my experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. And a question for Peggy. Thank you very much. We do have Matt Scoff, the OPA president. Mr. Scoff.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I'm going to start off with mentioning that today we heard from the Chief about the new transfer policy. This is replacing our old tenure program, which made a significant amount of attention in the media. It was quickly presented, and it has been successful, and I would like to hope that a lot of that has to do with the fact that that was a joint project where the Ottawa Police Association was heavily involved. Can't say obviously we agree with every aspect of it. However, that's not the point. The point is that there is no issue with it. There will hopefully be minimal issues going forward upon the implementation. On the slide there today, I saw that the Ottawa Police Association was apparently consulted or briefed. I assure you that this presentation that you saw today was shown to us the day after our district members were presented with it. We've impressed upon the service initiative that there are significant issues involving the collective agreement that are going to be problematic with how this model is rolling out. I've heard We've attempted, in the meantime, to have meetings prior to this presentation, and so far without success. Frustrating, and I just want to make sure that's impressed upon the Police Services Board when they make their decision around this. There was the mention of silos, anecdotal, that there's this problem that pre-existed with the district and patrol. My experience in the district cannot be further from that experience. I mean, that is possibly the feedback that was received, but as it was presented as something factual to the board, I just wanted to address that, as well as this intimation that best practices are being followed. The Calgary model, which has this command and control center, admittedly, yes, that is being brought over. However, Calgary still does have specialty units deployed to take care of the problems that all these community members have impressed upon you as being their top priority. There will likely be a suggestion that our increased patrol resource will be able to facilitate this by just the command model itself. Without the specialty units, you're going to see a repetition likely of problems of different platoons working on the same resource or the same problem over and over again. Without those specialty units, that is likely to occur. And this is all stemming from what I believe is to be a lack of resources in our patrol sector that is now being drawn upon from the district in order to supplement it. Philosophical and possibly going to be very helpful for patrol, absolutely. But as the community should know, when you are asking about proactive versus reactive, this is likely to see much more of a reactive model with a properly staffed patrol sector, which is nice to see, admittedly. But I hope that the community understands that there will be definitely a change in the service that has been received in Vanier, in Hinterberg, or in the market areas. There will be a change, and I just want to make sure that that's understood. Thank you.
Just in case we have some questions. Any question for Mr. Scarf? No? Okay, thank you very much. So with that, folks, that will conclude our presenters. And if we have any questions from board members to our staff, I believe Member Smallwood, you started?
Yes, thank you. My question is about the economics of the service initiative, but before I say that, given all of the conversation we've had, I think certainly from my perspective, it's very clear that the bottom line for us is that there should be no diminishment in community safety. So we are looking for efficiencies, but not at the cost of the service that the public gets. So I think that I don't want to seem hard-hearted in launching into a question about economics when we've heard so many very passionate comments from the community, and certainly I think we all as board members heard them very clearly. So having said that, I know that this is a very challenging initiative for the police service, and both the service initiative and the back office transformation, and that this pursuit of efficiencies and savings. And I think from a board perspective, one of the things that I'm very concerned about and would like to see, and in fact it was mentioned earlier by the Vice Chair with respect to the IMIT, when we received the budget presentation in November of 2015, there was an agenda, and at Agenda A6, and in that agenda there was a list of the efficiencies that were to be pursued and advantage taken of them during the year 2016. And what I would like to see with this update is how we are doing on those efficiencies. The total for the year is $2 million. We're a quarter of the way through the year. So what I would like to know is how are we doing, what efficiencies have been achieved so far. And my specific concern, which I had raised in the fall, was that there was an additional efficiency target of close to $700,000. So I would like to know, now that we're a quarter of the way into the year, what's happened? Like, where are we? And are we on target for those? And if not, then I think what I'd like to know is, so what happens next? Thank you.
Director General.
Mr. Chair, I'm pleased to report that we, in fact, are on target for the full $2 million. We did have, as Board Member Smallwood reminded us, that at budget time we were just under $700,000 short of the target. What we've realized as we did the back office transformation work and transferred the payroll function from Ottawa Police to the city, we introduced a range of policies that aligned with our payroll and benefit policies with city policies, and found a number of areas where we had payroll overpayments and introduced policies to eliminate that we, on a payroll budget of $280 million, that we have $700,000 worth of savings that we can attribute to that change and those changes in methods and new policies. So we've identified that as the remainder of the 2016 efficiencies, and we will be on target to glean the full $2 million.
That's excellent news, Mr. Chair, and I just wonder if in future of the updates, if we could have a tied-in cash, basically updating us how we're doing through the course of the year. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Member Smallwood. Member Nicholson.
First of all, I really want to thank all those people who came and presented tonight. I think we've had a pretty clear message that consultation engagement is absolutely a must. You know, police, we are an important community resource. Big implications. You know, we're trying to ask the question, would the public prefer to pay more taxes and get fewer services? These are some of the big issues that we're trying to wrestle with. And I do think it's critical for us to hear from the public. So I want to thank Inspector Superintendent, I lose track, for the commitment for consultation later on. I also wondered, as I was listening to the SI presentation, I'm thinking about Gartner in the IM presentation, and wondering, do we have a similar kind of function as the Gartner company is going to play for us? That is to say, it's a little bit removed, and it's looking at the overall project and ensuring that, because one of the things we're saying in the IT project is that we need some kind of overview of kind of the organizational change management perspective. And so I wonder structurally if that wouldn't be a smart thing to have in this project as well. That maybe we would have thought about community consultation earlier. A comment.
Chief?
Well, I think I can answer that question and roll up in my observations as well, if that's okay, Mr. Chair. I think, first of all, I want to thank the public delegation for coming out. I think it speaks to clearly to the passion that you have about policing services in your community and public safety, and it's not foreign to us. We see this on a daily basis, and I think it speaks to the amazing work and the excellent work that our officers are doing out there each and every day. So thank you very much for recognizing that. And so what I'm hearing, I certainly recognize the importance of that single point of contact, the knowledge of the community, the trust that we enjoy in our community because of the relationship that we've built over the years with the members of the community, and that consistency around the work we do with our community and knowledge of the officers. And, meaningful consultation is not something that's foreign to us as a police service. We see it in our business plan every year. We've seen it with the raised data, the traffic stop raised data collection project, the street check policy, the tasers. We've done consultations, and public consultation has always been part of our plan around the service initiative. And we needed to develop a concept and model prior to going out there. Now it's time to go out and ask the community what's important to them and show that type of model. And I can assure you that the role and the function of the CPC officer is important and will remain. You saw that in the proposed model, but we want to continue hearing from you. We recognize the importance of having officers walk a beat in our downtown core to show that visibility, that presence, and the relationship. That's important. That remains. How we deliver that service, keeping in mind all these tenets of community policing and the things that are important to you, is the trick as far as how do we structure ourselves so that we ensure that community safety is not compromised. That is our goal, is to keep our communities safe and reduce victimization, reduce crime, and hold offenders accountable while building strong relationships. That will always remain. Now, as far as the Member Nicholson's question, as far as who should oversee, I think this is the forum where that opportunity exists for the board to keep ensuring that we are being responsive to community, we are listening to the community, and that we continue to deliver a service that our community has come to expect at a cost that is affordable and that shows value for money. I think that's a role that the board has played and should continue to play in this large initiative here.
Thank you, Chief. Any other question? Any other question to? So on the report, item 6, can we receive item 6 with the? Item 8. Sorry, item 8. Receive. Receive. Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank the community who come out to speak to us tonight. We really appreciate your feedback, and obviously we will be continue. Working together with the community on this. Thank you. I need a motion to move in camera, yes? So move. Okay.